Welcome to the Business of Hotels podcast, examining the issues mattering most to owners and investors. And now, your hosts, Gary and Glenn.
Gary Isenberg.
Hey, Glenn, how are you? Good to see you, man.
It is good to see you too, man. I got to tell you, it is so much fun doing this show with you. I'm having a great time, and I can't wait to see what you're going to have to say today, because we're going to be covering a really interesting topic, I think.
I hope so. I hope it's interesting, and I hope it's just not overplayed.
I don't think it's
overplayed
at all. And for all of you listeners, thank you for joining us once again here on the Business of Hotels podcast. So excited that each and every one of you are coming along for this journey that we've been on together for over a year.
Yeah.
Now. It's so much fun, man. I'm having a great time having these conversations with you, mostly because not only are you fun to hang out with, but I'm learning so much from you in each and every episode. And, you know, it just goes to show you could be in a business for 25 years and still not know what you don't know. And every time I sit down with you, I walk away feeling smarter. So I'm glad that we're able to have you here on this show.
Well, thank you, Glenn. And I'm not really sure that I'm contributing to your smartness, but you are the king of all media to me. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with all of the sharing economy services wanting to, I think, become a little bit more like hotel companies and OTAs, while the hotel companies, Gary, seem to be trying to be a little bit more like sharing economy.
It's pretty crazy,
yeah.
Right? There's a lot happening. You know, you look at the stories and the conversations we've had in the past and so forth, and you look at what's happening today, and it really is coming to fruition, this kind of convergence, right? And it'll continue to converge. You know, you look at the sharing economy with the servicing companies such as Isenberg or Lyric. You know, they are now becoming more prevalent of competing with hotels and operating legal hotels, if you would.
Right.
You have Airbnb, who just signed a contract to lease a building in Manhattan to build a hotel.
Right, and that's exactly what companies like Sonder is doing. They will go in and they will see, hey, this is a brand new residential building. They'll lease the whole darn thing.
Or half of it or whatever.
On a long-term lease, and then all of a sudden, you've got instant new, quote-unquote, hotel supply in the market.
Right, and what's interesting with that model, Glenn, is, all right, yes, it's a long-term lease, but it's just a lease, right? So at the end of the day, let's say they do a 20-year lease or a 15-year lease or whatever that lease is, right? In 15 years, if they want to go 3 blocks over because that's the hot neighborhood right now, they go lease a building 3 blocks over.
Right. I mean, think about it from a hotelier's point of view. You don't have to worry anymore about your product being old and outdated and the new guy opening across the street. You could move across the street.
Correct. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see one of the big hotel companies at some point in the near future entering that market as well.
I will say that is absolutely, unequivocally going to happen. It's just a matter of who is going to get there first.
Timing.
I have been screaming from the top of my lungs that the Great Convergence is upon us and that the hotel industry needs to start focusing on this new issue. One company in particular was smart enough to engage me to have a conversation with them about this, and I informed them about this. And that's kind of the conversation we're going to be having here today, is the changes that we're seeing, not just driven by technology, but in society, that are kind of reshaping the way people want to experience a hospitality product and a local market.
Correct. You know, my kids tell me constantly, like, you know, Dad, your industry is going to go away. It's obsolete. You know, it's going to be replaced by Airbnb. Hotels aren't going to exist anymore, and Airbnb is going to be the platform.
I totally 100% disagree.
And that's what I tell them. However, though, there is some truth to it in the sense that the whole home sharing phenomenon is shaping and reshaping the playing field and the landscape of our industry as a whole.
And now that I've told you that I don't believe that'll happen at all, let me tell you one reason why it might and where your kids are coming from. A year and a half ago, now that's a long time ago already, 18 months ago, I shot a man on the street video here in New York City for the Serviced Apartment Summit, New York. And we randomly stopped people on the street and asked them what their favorite hotel brands are, or to name 5 hotel brands. I can't remember specifically right now, but other than just saying Marriott and W, they couldn't really think of anything. I would say Airbnb, then they'd be like, that's where we're going to stay. We're going to book on an Airbnb. We're going to book on an Airbnb. So the younger generation already seems predisposed to gravitate towards sharing economy products.
And what's interesting about that whole phenomenon is in that millennial generation, Airbnb is perceived as a brand.
Right.
In their minds. It's a brand. It is a Hilton. It is a Marriott.
Right. And that's pretty scary for these major companies like Hilton, which has been around 100 years now.
So, but I think what we'll see happen, and this is the convergence, is I believe that the Airbnb type of model will become much more like an OTA.
Right.
Because what's happening with the Lyrics and the Sonders of the world and so forth is they're not necessarily 100% committed to just offering on Airbnb.
Right.
They're using other, whether it's Home Away, whether it's VRB, vacation rental by owner, all these other websites as well.
I thought it was VRBO, but apparently it's Vrbo.
VRBO, vacation rental by owner.
Right, they call themselves Vrbo, though. I saw some commercials.
Vrbo.
Yeah, right? Isn't that strange?
It is. But anyway, I don't know where they're getting the E from. But so the point is, though, that they can use the home sharing economy with the likes of a Sonder and a Lyric are now utilizing the home sharing technology sites, similar to as the hotel industry uses the OTA sites.
Right.
So hotels participate on many OTAs and yield them and so forth.
Right.
And I think that's happening in the home sharing environment as well, where as it become more institutionalized. The Sonders of the world and the Lyrics of the world are institutionalizing it and creating this product that is actually legal hotels in some markets versus illegal hotels.
So what's the nuances then that we're talking here between what's considered legal and illegal? And I know that's a loaded question because it changes per jurisdiction.
Right. So, obviously over the last 2-3 years, between all the work that the American Hotel Lodging Association has done in conjunction with our industry and the private sector, has really focused on changing laws in municipalities, cities, and states, right? So here in New York City, for example, you can't, unless you have the right licensing and so forth, you can't advertise on the internet for rooms. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's shut down a lot. And the city of New York has really focused on cracking down on those illegal hotels. Mm-hmm. And they got a lot of pressure from the unions because the unions are seeing jobs being lost.
Right, of course.
And they got a lot of pressure from hotel companies. And they got a lot of pressure from the city as well because the city's losing occupancy tax and the state's losing taxes. So all this kind of crackdown to push has kind of reduced, what I understand, has reduced the inventory in the city for Airbnb.
Reminds me of the good old days when I could order stuff online and not have to pay taxes.
Right. So now Airbnb and these types of products are looking, how do we increase? And hence, potentially leasing a building and providing inventory. My understanding is some third party will manage that for Airbnb.
Right.
They're not entering into the management of hotel business, but they are looking to own some product to put on their sites and let others manage it so they can continue to grow the inventory.
Here's another place that's kind of muddy. I think that colloquially speaking, people hear Airbnb and sharing economy as renting someone's couch or a room in somebody's house. But that's kind of like really separate than I think where the industry at large is going. It's not really a sharing economy as much as non-traditional hotel products.
I think that a lot of that has shifted. I think it started that way.
Absolutely.
And I
mean, that's how Airbnb started with renting out an air mattress.
with a free breakfast. Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think that's changed, and it's also what's driven that change is this whole concept of illegal hotels.
Right.
People coming in and renting apartments and then subleasing them on Airbnb or buying condos and then making them revenue generations. And so that's kind of morphed it where it's not really as much just renting a bed or room. Some of that still exists out there on Airbnb. There is product like that out there. But what really sells and what was really in demand is the independent kind of unit. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to continue to see that convergence. I mean, we've seen Marriott enter the space with their vacation rental program and so forth.
Right. And, Choice Hotels, I got to give them props because they were the first ones in on that with vacation rentals. A number of years they've been doing that already.
But I think Marriott's the first to really kind of get into the true home sharing environment. But anyway,
Choice was more vacation
Right,
rentals.
because Wyndham has a vacation product as well, a home away or something like that. So, I mean, there are products out there.
Right.
But again, I just think you're going to continue, or maybe it wasn't Wyndham, maybe it's Accor that has a home away. But anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right. But Wyndham has Wyndham Vacation Rentals or whatever it is. But it's all kind of, again, like I said, converging and coming together. And I think we'll see a lot more of a level playing field. We'll see the Marriotts, the Hilton worlds having a Sonder product. We'll see Marriotts and the Hiltons being more involved in home sharing. So we'll see home sharing, selling hotels on their websites. It's all going to come together.
So how does a major multinational company such as Marriott, Hilton, Choice, IHG, all these big boys start to become or offer products that are geared more towards what we perceive the sharing economy to be?
I think they're starting. It's I think as the product morphs, we talk about Sonder and we talk about Lyric. Those are two companies. Okay, those happen to be the two that I'm aware of and could probably get the most press. There could be 5 others behind them.
There are many.
And as they expand and as they grow and as they become more and more of household names, the brands are going to continue to say, how do I expand my product type? Why? And they're going to it becomes more of a threat. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not think tanks already at Marriott and Hilton thinking about how to launch such a product.
Of course there are, because they're smart companies that have really great people that are involved in it. If they weren't doing it, man, you'd think that board of directors had to get rid of them because they're just, you know what I'm saying? Right. It's just that important for the future of people. So when you look at a recently introduced product, such as I think it's a Motto from Hilton, which is more focused on the hostel kind of universe, does that kind of qualify to you as the sharing economy, or are we really kicking it to the analog era when we'd all go backpacking in Europe and stay in hostels?
To me, that product is similar to the Moxie as well.
Right.
I'm not sure that I don't think that's the convergence we're talking about. That's still, yes, it's a fragmented hotel product, but it's a traditional hotel product.
Right.
It's still bricks and mortar that you're owning and building. You have a design that you need to adhere to. You're going to distribute rooms on Hilton.com and all the websites. It's really not. That's not the morphing.
So then, what you're really talking about is kind of what you indicated, I think, early on here in our Business of Hotels run, where you talked about the future, where you can have a single hotel building, and each floor or each room could be represented by a different brand.
Correct. Or for example, you could have an apartment building that a floor is rented by Sonder and running it as a Sonder, and a floor is rented by Marriott and running as Marriott Home Share if they had such a thing. So why not?
Right.
And that's where I see it going. That's the convergence that I see. I see us our industry entering the similar type of product market as a Sonder, that you're not tied up in owning the real estate. You're just owning but the problem is how that all shakes out financially, because now you don't have an asset, you have a liability on your books. So I'm not sure from an accounting perspective and an investment perspective of how that shakes out.
Okay, I want to continue this conversation. I've got a couple of questions for you that are more focused on the changes that we're seeing in our global society as opposed to the bricks and mortar operations of business. So we're going to do that, Gary, but I got to kick it off to a quick commercial break, okay?
We got to end this?
I know.
Damn,
we'll be right back, though. Hang on to your seats or, pick up that dog poop if you're watching the dog. If you're walking the dog, we'll be right back right after this.
Hi, this is Gary Isenberg with LW Hospitality Advisors, president of their asset management division, where we bridge the gap between hotel ownership and management. View us at our website at www.lwhospitalityadvisors.com. You can always email me at gary.isenberg@lwhadvisors.com. Feel free to call me as well at 212-300-6684, extension 108. Look forward to speaking to you or receiving your emails.
All right, so Gary, before we went to commercial break, I was teasing the whole idea. I wanted to talk about some of the societal changes that we're seeing. And I'm talking specifically now about, for example, the rise of the digital nomad. People that don't feel that they need to live in a city for their entire lives, that they could migrate from place to place to place every 6 months, every year, every 2 months, whatever, even seasonally, whatever it is that they think it is, because they're not bound by their careers to a specific location. They just need to attach themselves to the internet.
Yeah. I think we've been seeing that over the last decade or two.
Right.
And just industries moving, right? As technology and communication, the ability to communicate has improved at lightning speed and so forth. We're seeing, and I think also what we're seeing is that's why we're seeing such growth in these other segments in these other cities.
Right.
In an earlier podcast, we mentioned that we were all surprised that Minneapolis had the greatest growth in the second quarter of this year, right?
Mm-hmm. And be sure to check out that episode. I believe that was 2 shows ago, so check that one out.
So if we look at that and you sit there and say, why is that happening? And I think that type of stuff is happening because of the fact that people can live anywhere they want and be where they want, and the technology is changing.
Right, and this is kind of where I think we're talking now, we're talking about the Great Convergence plus, because I think another opportunity for hotels in the future is to create something that's got that sharing economy vibe, but also includes that co-located workspace, something that pulls all of these things that we're seeing together, that fosters what I call the creation of instant community, which will bind everybody together while giving hoteliers more success in the future.
And I think also, Glenn, you hit something there too. You look at also the whole co-working space, right? The WeWorks of the world and so forth. And there's a product here in New York called Assemblage, and they actually have hotel rooms associated with them as well. Mm-hmm. So that's all kind of happening as well, and it's changing the dynamic. You look at for example, Moxie by Marriott. One of the things that they try to do too is create these kind of rooms, these common rooms that you have guest rooms feed off of the common rooms, so that you can have a group of 4 or 5 people share work that are working together on a project or something, each have their own hotel room, but then have this kind of common workspace where they can collaborate.
Yeah, there's also a brand called Abode. I spoke to the CEO of my No Vacancy show, and what I liked about that is exactly what you're saying. They've got, you could either work or party. They've got several bedrooms with space to work together, and then some outdoor space to hang out.
Right. So it kind of creates this kind of co-working kind of collaboration environment. And I think we're going to continue to see that. I mean, you look here in New York City, you look at ACE when they were one of the first ones to develop the whole concept of the co-working or the community table and all this kind of stuff. And now that's becoming a feature at all hotels.
Right.
And I think we'll continue to see that growth. And I think we'll continue to see what's interesting going back to the Lyric/Sonder kind of model, right? There's very little public space in those environments. Right?
Yeah.
So, and what's interesting there is that there's opportunity then, too, if the brands were entrances, of also creating maybe separate businesses within that space or near that space that cater to the co-working. So it's a lot of things happening. It's not necessarily all has to be housed in one building or be, I'm staying at a Marriott, so I'm only going to use the Marriott restaurant. I'm going to go over here and use this. And I think there's going to be a lot of you bringing in different brands to kind of maximize that exposure, not just your one brand.
That's why I love, for example, the Student Hotel in Amsterdam. They got a couple of locations. The one I saw was in Amsterdam, and they have rooms to rent by the day, the week, the month, the semester. Then they have areas where they foster learning together. We could watch TED Talks and stuff. Then they've got workout spaces. They've got productivity spaces. They got places where you can hang out and cook. They give everybody a bicycle. All of these different things to build your whole life around that one location, as opposed to you having to go everywhere.
I recently read, speaking where you were talking about renting at different time periods, there's also companies out there right now, and I forget the name of it, I just read about one, will help you maximize your revenue by allowing you to sell your room by the hour. Not by the hour like
not in that old school way.
Not in an old school way. But what I'm saying is, let's say, I'll give you an example. Normal checkout time of a hotel is 11 o'clock, let's just say, right? Or 12 o'clock. Got to be out by 12, right? But your flight's not leaving until 4.
Right.
Okay? Is there ability for you to buy that room for those extra 4 or 5 hours and pay some nominal fee by the hour in order to keep the room and keep your stuff, stay in the room, maybe work in the room, whatever it is. And then this company helps the hotel manage and maximize that yield on that revenue for that room and the turnover of that room.
Right. One example of a hotel that is focused on this big time is the brand new TWA hotel over at JFK.
Yes.
Tyler Morse, the developer over at MCR, says they're shooting for not 100% occupancy, not 150%, 200% occupancy. So they are adopting exactly the philosophy that you're preaching right here, Gary.
Where you could literally, your flight arrives at 7 in the morning and you have a layover till 3 in the afternoon. You can rent a room for 6 hours.
Right. Man, I would love to be able to do that. So many times I'm stuck in this haze of exhaustion in an international airport saying, 4 hours left.
That's a very unique market that you can do that with.
Yeah.
Back in a previous life, I worked for a company where we owned and operated the now to be the Hilton JFK Airport Hotel. And we ran 120, 130% occupancy because of that ability to kind of turn the rooms and do 6-hour layovers, 3-hour layovers, and so forth. That's a unique market, though, for that specific airport.
Okay, so one segment that we haven't talked about that's also becoming a big part of the Great Convergence is the serviced apartment sector, right? They're doing a lot of things that are mimicking some of the stuff that we're talking about. For example, one company, Bridge Street Global Hospitality, has the Mode Apart Hotel, which is very similar to what we've been talking about. They'll take an apartment with multiple bedrooms, and instead of renting it out to one person from Goldman Sachs, they'll rent it out to as many bedrooms as they have. So you have
it's kind of a
collaborative
kind of
workspace for your younger employees.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like I said. There's so many fractions of it today. Our industry as hotels specifically is so fragmented, and now when you tie in the home sharing and all the capabilities and all the possibilities, it's going to be some mathematical equation to figure out how many brands and different product types we have.
So, Gary, as the as a preeminent advisor to folks here in our hospitality industry, what advice are you starting to give your clients that are rooted in the traditional hotel business to gird themselves about these challenges that are rising fast?
I think the first thing is we need to think outside the box, and I think we need to embrace the home sharing economy. When it first Airbnb, and we'll talk Airbnb because it's the iconic, right?
Right.
It's what revolutionized home sharing.
It's becoming like Airbnb is becoming like Kleenex means all tissues,
correct?
Right? Airbnb means
or
all
Xerox means all copies,
right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And they were we looked at them as being a disruptor, right? And I would say at this point in time, they're more of an augmenter. They're helping augment and reshape. They're not really I don't think they're disrupting our business as much as they have been, because we've gotten smart. We've cracked down on laws. We've tried to create barriers around them to kind of push them more like us. And they're really kind of augmenting and reshaping the playing field of our industry.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So if they're augmenting it and reshaping it, what does today's traditional hotelier need to start thinking about? I mean, they put millions of dollars into, say, select service hotels, the big brand flag out there. Are they safe? How do you see it?
Again, I don't see tomorrow Holiday Inn Expresses and Hampton Inns and things closing their doors.
No, I think this is a generational type of a thing.
I think we'll continue to see the convergence of it. We'll continue to see products change. We'll probably continue to see those brands exist, but they may exist differently.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about going to all the annual brand conferences over the next few years and thinking about the types of programs that they're going to start to implement that are going to forward the notion of convergence.
Because one of the things that early on at adaptation of Airbnb that I really thought would completely propel it and really would disrupt our industry and change it was the fact that Airbnb model and that home sharing model was being married with entrepreneurship.
Right.
seems to in this new convergence seems to be becoming lost because of the fact of the crackdown on the laws in order to prevent illegal hotels and so forth. So the people that can be hosts have to be a little bit more institutionalized to make sure that they're paying taxes, have all the right life safety requirements, all this kind of stuff to meet the laws requirements. So that's changing it, and to me, that's what I thought was revolutionary. Because you look at what Lyft and Uber has done to the transportation industry and the cab industry. I mean, it just completely has changed it. Now that's changing here in New York too, where New York City has cracked down on the amount of Uber drivers that can be in the city to protect the cabs. And I don't know if that's a smart thing.
I don't know if it's a smart thing or not, because you're artificially increasing the market rates for a particular type of product. But
Correct.
I do think the city has legitimate gripe in the fact that traffic has exploded because there are so many more vehicles on the road now.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that I mean, to me, it's always been a traffic jam in New York City. So
I know, but yeah.
Yeah, what's a couple more cars?
Right. Oh, all right. So, what do you think about New York City? I know this has nothing
And I
to do
drive in the city every day, by the way.
All right, guys, this has nothing to do with the Great Convergence, but it looks like New York City is going way of London, and we're going to be starting congestion pricing here in the city.
I heard that, yes.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that kind of changes the mix-up for car
But
traffic.
we're already doing that on the HOV lanes and so forth down like D.C.
Right.
Like they're express lanes.
Right.
It's not HOV. You can have one person in the car. You just got to pay for it.
Yeah, which really offends me, because I think that's it's more of a tax against the poor and benefits for the wealthy of us that don't have a problem.
That is true.
And I don't mean wealthy of us, including me. I mean folks that have the money, not not me. So if you still want to donate to us, feel free. Any final thoughts to wrap this bad boy up?
I think we covered it on that last statement.
Yeah,
so.
I think we did too. So tell us how we can find you.
You're doing it again to me, Glenn.
Week after week, I want to make sure that you get your messaging out there while simultaneously challenging you to get it right.
All right. Let's see if we got it this time. So you can email me at gary.eisenberg at lwhadvisors.com.
Yep.
Or you can find me on my website at www.lwhospitalityadvisors.com. Wow, 2 shows in a row. I think I got it right. That's amazing.
I'm completely blown away by everything I've learned today, but mostly about Gary's skills of knowing his own website and email. I am, of course, at Traveling Glenn online. If you want to drop me an email, that's just glenn@rouse.media. I want to thank you all for being here today. Be sure to subscribe to this shows and all the other shows on the No Vacancy Network. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on the Business of Hotels podcast.
Thank you.